Hi, my name is Robert. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. I'm here at the donor vehicle to go ahead and put the head back together on it and get this car delivered to the person that supposed to need it, and kind of finding some disturbing things. I pulled this vehicle apart right before I left on my tour. That was in May, early May, because I tried to get the head back before I left, and I'm seeing things in this engine compartment that I don't normally see and I don't normally do. An example of that is the air box is missing, and a hose under the air box is also missing. Not sure what that's all about. The distributor cap and rotor, all that stuff is missing, and I don't normally take that off. I got a weird looking hose here. You know, I just hope that somebody didn't somehow get into my engine compartment and take a bunch of my stuff. I also have a spark plug missing. I only see 4, there's normally 5. So, let me get in here and start putting this back together, and man, I sure hope I don't have to order no new parts, because somebody got in here and kind of robbed me blind while I was gone, had my back turned. Man, this just looks like so much stuff is out of place. Hoses cut, all kind of stuff. So I'm gonna start off by replacing those heater hoses, and then get this head prepped to go in. I even got a head gasket bent up there. Man, I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, let me get to work. Okay, I have both heater supply hoses in place. I massage them so that they're twisted in their natural lying position, because these hoses are molded. They have the old style snaps on them, where you have the thin base, a large plastic washer, rubber, plastic, rubber. The lower one actually came out, the seals came out with the old hose. The upper one did not. It just came out with the clip. So I'm going to put the clip on that and try to guide it through the seals that are still in there. You got to kind of be gentle with that junction, because you don't want to crack it. So let me go ahead and snap these hoses in place. I have both heater hoses secured in place with their clamps on them. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove this used head gasket. Of course, it was only used for about 15 miles. Nonetheless, it is used. And I'm going to pull it, clean up the block, and prep the head for installation and being bolted down. These old hoses I pulled off, they actually look like they may have come out of a salvage car somebody put in here. Volvo hoses are pretty expensive. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford them either, but I thought that new hoses aftermarket hoses would be better than trying to patch up old hoses or using something like this. Once you overheat a car and they get soft, they're absolutely no good. So once you fill a hose, it feels real soft. Those things are subject to blowing. That's what happened to this one that overheated the car right after I built the head. It sent me into this spiral. Now, I believe the Volvo hoses probably last 10, 15, 20 years. I could only find aftermarket Euro hoses, which I really discouraged myself and others from using, but that's all I could afford. I believe they'll last 5 years, hopefully, and maybe a little longer. I'll try to stay in touch with the new owner and find out if he ever has any hose issues before he gets rid of the vehicle. Let me pull this head gasket off, clean this up, grab the head, prep it, and keep it moving. Another fun-filled day with cleaning off a block. I do have my 2 pins in here, which is good. I do need to clean off this block material, and I see where number 2 is cleaner than the rest as far as it not having the dark carbon. I'm not going to be cleaning off pistons. Look, this one just wipes off, so it had oil on it, running rich or something. Anyway, I'm going to wipe these off, clean this stuff up with some acetone, maybe lightly brush it with the razor and use some gasket remover. I'm going over some of this block with a razor blade. And what you want to do, you want to make sure you have a real good razor blade, preferably new. Razor blades are stainless steel, so they're harder than most other metal material like this block, and stainless steel can scratch it. So you got to be real careful when you're trying to pull gasket material off with it. Same goes with wire brushes. Those silver looking ones are probably stainless steel brushes, and you don't want to scratch this up more than you have to. So I go on this angle like this and I lightly scrape, just trying to get the plastic off the gasket material, trying to make sure I don't cut into this metal, because if I do, I'm going to have scratches, and that's going to increase the chances of my head gasket leaking. So I'm just kind of doing like a gentle sawing motion, getting this gasket material off. I'm being as careful as I can not to scratch the block. And if you're going to use a razor blade, this might be the technique you use. And if it feels smooth, it's fine. If you feel the bump of the gasket material, that's where you need to get that stuff cleaned off some. So be gentle, take your time, don't rush it. It should feel very, very smooth when you're done. Another good way to get this carbon or gasket material off is use a good quality wire brush. You do not want to use a brush that the bristles come out of. That can cause a piece of wire to go in your engine crevice and you won't get it out. Dip it in a little bit of acetone and then lightly brush an area on the engine that you're trying to clean. So I'm not putting a lot of force on there. I'm just kind of lightly brushing that, and acetone evaporates pretty quick, so you want to kind of do that as quick as you can and then wipe it off. Make sure you get all the gasket material off. But of course you want to use your razor blade as the last resort. To clean your block off, your first plan of attack is a cloth and gasket material remover. After that, whatever's left, you want to get something a little bit more aggressive. So you want to use a brass brush. That's your second level. Make sure you use a good quality brush, because you don't want the bores coming off or the bristles coming off and going in your engine somewhere. So I dip the end of the brush in a little bit of acetone, and then I rub the areas that still have gasket on there. Not too much pressure, but some pressure to get it cleaned off. And then I wipe it with the rag, see if all the gasket material's off. Wipe it with my finger, make sure it's smooth and no gasket materials left on there. Your next level of aggression is a steel brush. Those are normally stainless steel. They'll normally scratch the surface of your block. So you don't want to put a lot of pressure. You don't want to use them unless you have to. So let me touch this spot with my brass brush to see if it gets off that gasket material. So I put a little more acetone in my little dish there. I dip the brush in there. I go over to where the gasket material is, and I lightly brush it, taking my time, And as you can see, that gasket material is coming off. So you don't usually have to go more aggressive than that, but you know, a brass brush is normally pretty effective. Wipe it with the rag, rub it with your finger, make sure it's real smooth. If there's anything left, you can use a steel brush, being very careful not to push too hard or lightly brush it with a razor blade, which you really don't want to do. So a brass brush and some acetone or gasket material remover is normally adequate to clean off the surface of your block and head. If for some reason you want to try to clean off your piston heads, which I don't recommend, you can do the same thing with a brass brush. Those little notches in the piston heads are valve clearance, pre-marked things in the piston heads. Those were not put in there by valves at all. Come from the factory like that. I have the block as clean as I'm going to get it, and I want to encourage you guys, when you go to do a head gasket job, get this stuff off and back on as quick as you can. The longer it sits taken apart and stuff like that, the more difficult it's going to be for you to get all this stuff back together. Bolts missing, misplaced, all kind of weird stuff like that. Now I noticed here, this coolant line is improper, so I'm going to go ahead and replace this coolant line real quick. I'm also going to brush this exhaust manifold. I could see where my dental floss put a little stain on it from where I dental floss my bolts on the back of the head when I put it in place. I am not concerned with stains. I'm concerned with getting the gasket material off and making sure it feels nice and smooth and doesn't have any gasket material left on there where I can feel it bump as I rub my finger across it. Your fingertip, hopefully it still has feeling in it, will be your best guide to know if your block is clean enough in the bottom of your head and so forth. I'm also going to be as careful as possible that I get as little foreign material as necessary into that block. I don't want to pour solvents in there. I don't want to get steel wool in there. Definitely don't want to get none of those Scotch-Brite pads. Keep those far away from here. And I don't want to get wire brush burrs, anything like that. I want to make sure I don't inject any foreign material into my block. Now that my block's cleaned up, I'm going to lay a towel or something over there until I'm ready to set the head in place. The bottom of your head should be ready because it was made true, unless you were messing around getting different solvents or stuff on there, messing with your valves. Really shouldn't have nothing to do on it. So I'm going to wipe the bottom of it off. I see a little bit of crud here and there from when I was fooling with the valves. I went over the bottom of my head with a brass brush and acetone and clean rag. The bottom line is I don't want nothing to be on the bottom of this head when I try to bolt it onto the block, any kind of substance that will stop my head gasket from sealing real good. So I went over that. There's my machine shop, when they finish these heads, it's actually a little grainy. It's not smooth like some. That may or may not help it seal better. I don't know. But it's a little grainy. Nonetheless, it's made true. It's ready to be installed. As you can see, I have it on this cardboard. I'm going to flip it over, clean the top side off so that it's ready to mate with the cam cover. Easier to do that when it's out of the vehicle. And then double check the valve seats and put coolant in there. Make sure those valves are still sealing properly. Then I'll bolt it to the block. I have the bottom cleaned off. I have the top cleaned off. I need to find my thermostat housing and put that on next before I move any further. So let me find that, find my head gasket kit, and keep moving forward. Well, my Chariot's about to turn into a pumpkin, but I'm ready to set the head in place. Everything is on go. I I have the thermostat housing on. I had to go to my storage facility and get that. Volvo put out a service bulletin that you should double the gasket there, but some of these gaskets are thicker than others. I got a thick one, so I only put one. I didn't find the torque value for that housing, so I torqued it to 12 foot-pounds. Probably 9 would have been better. At any rate, it's on. Hope it don't leak. I got my little coolant hose gasket there. I'm going to cut that dental floss off of there and pull that out when I get it in place. I got the head gasket in place. That ring fit on loosely. That one over there fit on real tight, so I tapped it down with a socket. But your turbo cars have a little hole in the gasket there and another one here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the head in place, and then I'm going to call it a day because, like I said, I'm out of time. I did replace this hose here. It had a bad, just plain rubber hose on there, and the type that's supposed to go on there has that white sleeve in it because the coolant that comes off that turbo back into this line is extremely hot, and you don't want a regular hose on there. I put my new exhaust gaskets in place. Couldn't find the ones I just took off, so I may not use them, or I may when I find them in the future. At any rate, I'm going to go ahead and set this in place, and those gaskets shouldn't fall off with the dental floss through there like that. Alright, I have my head in place, ready to start bolting it down. To the life of me, I don't know how guys that say it's easier to replace an engine than a head. At any rate, I could lift that up even with a sore back. So let me go ahead and work on bolting this down and getting out of here. Now, one thing I will advise you to do is double check the bolt holes in the block. Make sure there's no fluid in there. Those bolt holes are cleaned out so that you can get your head bolts down in there without any problems. When I check the holes down where the head bolts go, those are the paper towels I brought out wet. So I did have some coolant or something, coolant and oil down in a few of those holes. I just keep stuffing paper towels down there until they start coming out dry. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.